So I invite you to be very discerning, very introspective about what will be auspicious for your body and creating a base for your upper leg bones, maybe your sits bones, so that your hips are high enough that your knees find comfort in whichever shape they choose to take. So you could choose an easy seat with the knees apart, like this, or you could choose a hero's pose with the legs back and feet apart, something between the feet. It's completely up to you. The main thing is for you to be, as I already said, discerning about what you might need under your seat to raise the hips enough so that all of you, your whole body is happy because it can ground into the earth through either the upper leg bones or the shins or the sits bones, however you're sitting, and then it can rise up from there in its natural curves. And once you've chosen how you will assemble your body, I invite you to be planful or thoughtful about how you would like to place your hands. Our practice today is focused on twisting and forward folding. And so you might ponder, okay, so forward folding, we'll do some introspection. What hand position might be appropriate here for you, for your energy, for your mind, for your emotional state? Often hands down is a little bit more reflective, a little bit more introspective. Hands up is more a hope for being inspired, but it can also be a gesture of being receptive. So be thoughtful about how you assemble your hands. And then I invite you to make choices about how you will place your eyelids, whether you'll close them all the way or maybe find a downward gaze that is soft and yet steady. From this place of having assembled yourself and collected yourself into this moment, let's, as a Sangha, take 3 rounds of breath. Knowing that our breaths won't necessarily be synchronized, and yet that we share the energy of our breathing. And so after the end of your next exhalation, let that be your first count. When you've completed your 3 rounds of breath, perhaps bring your hands to your heart to signal that you are finished with your 3 breaths. Welcome into the present moment with this beautiful yoga community. Welcome into this present moment for your body, your breath, your mind, your emotions. As you collect yourself into the here and now, you might choose to invite an intention to guide your practice today. This could be a phrase or a word or a felt sense. This could be a very tangible intention or something very subtle. Can you open your heart to whatever might show up? If it feels auspicious to you, you might choose to seal that intention into your own heart as you inhale, and to share that intention into your community as you exhale. And welcome, everyone. So I already mentioned today's practice from an asana perspective will be focused on seats, twists, and forward folds, mostly twists and forward folds. The seats are more incidental. So very fitting as sort of an integrating practice for our weekend. And I'll try to emphasize a lot of specific cueing for those particular shapes from an asana teaching perspective. And the overarching sort of intention, though, for this practice is to open your heart to that inward experience. Forward folds are kind of introspective. They kind of bring your energy inward. They invite interoception and neuroception and proprioception. And yet they're not about spacing out. They're really about tuning in. And so it's a tuning inward that keeps the heart wide open. And of course, we do this energetically, but we also do this very literally from a physical perspective. So as we move into these forward folds and into our twists, we will continue to hold our heart open, both literally in our physical body, but also figuratively in our intention, in our attitude that we're bringing to the practice today. So I invite you to take that intention if you'd like it and to incorporate that theme, or if something shows up for you where that's not compatible, that's fine too. But that is sort of the overarching idea of the practice today. So I actually invite you to find a supine position, so position on your back, for an opening breathing practice. And feel free to make yourself comfortable here in whatever way works for you. So some of you might choose to have a blanket under the knees. Some of you might choose to have a blanket under the head. If you do place a blanket under the head, try to bring it low enough so that it catches C7 and T1. This will allow your heart to stay just a tiny bit more open. You could even roll up a blanket and descend your spine on that blanket and let the arms drape on the side, as we've done in the past. Or you can just be flat on your mat with no muss, no fuss. Totally up to you. From here, I invite you to find your natural breathing rhythm, collecting your attention into your breath, exactly as it is unfolding in this moment. No need to change anything, no need to judge or evaluate. Simply observe and be present with how prana, how life force is moving through you in this moment. Perhaps your breath reflects the reverberations of your day. Perhaps your breath reflects the energy that you're bringing with you this evening at the end of what may have been a long Monday. Keep your heart open to whatever shows up in your breath, your vitality, your energy in this moment. In fact, perhaps even welcoming whatever shows up. Being grateful that there is energy moving through you in this moment. That breath is flowing in, inviting you to expand your heart, to expand the entirety of your being. And that breath is flowing out, inviting you to let go, to release. And let that be your practice for the next minute or so. Receiving the breath with an open heart, feeling the expansiveness and the opening that it is carrying into your body, into your mind. perhaps even into your emotions, your relationships. And then letting go, releasing as the breath travels out, taking with it what no longer serves in your body, taking with it perhaps a more tired energy, making room for the next inhalation to bring in vitality, rejuvenation. And let this simply be an open-hearted invitation for your breath, not an expectation. Staying open to however the breath is unfolding. Take 3 more rounds of breath. And when you've come to the end of your 3rd breath, I invite you to stretch yourself long. Feet walking themselves away from the hips, arms lifting up and overhead, reaching away from the shoulders. Finding a human stretching rack sort of position that allows you to become long and stretched and open. And then in this openness, continue to receive your breath, feeling the expansion of the inhalation and releasing what no longer serves with the exhalation. And then let your arms relax down by your side, feeling perhaps nice and stretched out. Find the strap. This can be a shorter strap, doesn't have to be the long one if you didn't find the long one. And just have it available by your side. You may not want it right away. And you have choices here. You can bend both knees, or you can keep your left leg extended on the ground as you draw the right knee toward the chest and catch the back of the thigh with your hand. And then draw the knee closer to you with your hands at the same time that you're pushing your thigh away. And feel that isometric energy, hands drawing in, leg drawing away. And see if you can find an open heart here. Like for me, I like to wiggle my shoulder blades underneath my back a little bit to keep my heart very open at the same time that I allow my core to stabilize by drawing the low ribs toward the hips, just a tiny bit, a soft stabilization, not a clamping down that interferes with the breath, but a very soft, gentle strength. And now, if you would like, you could experiment with extending the leg. This is not a requirement. You may have to lengthen your grip a little bit, and this is where your strap might come in handy if your arms aren't long enough. You can bring the strap to the back of the thigh and let yourself hold that thigh and create that isometric connection via a strap at the back of the thigh. And then I invite you to play a bit with your foot here, maybe making some circles with your ankle in one direction and then in the other direction. Maybe drawing some figure eights with your foot just to make things a little bit more exciting and different. And then dorsiflexing, pulling the toes toward the hips, stretching the heel toward the sky. As you notice how this activates the back of the leg. And then if that's too much, you can always bring your foot into plantar flexion, pointing the toes to the sky. And just notice how this might take some of the tension out of the back body. And it might bring a bit of resilience into the front of the foot. You could even pivot between the two, sort of switching it up. From here, I invite you to really hold on to that leg as you begin to rock your pelvis while you're holding the leg steady here, forward and back, so that you're increasing and decreasing the little curve, that bit of lordotic curve in your lumbar spine, dropping the lumbar all the way to the floor with an exhalation, rolling the pelvis back, inhaling, rolling the pelvis away. If you're having a hard time accessing this and your left leg is extended, you might choose to flex the left knee so that you can feel this a little bit better. And you might notice that after a while, you want to pull your right leg a little bit closer as you keep pivoting your pelvis back and forth, really finding that rhythm of your entire pelvic girdle moving as one unit, rolling forward, rolling back, and explore this relationship between your hamstrings and your pelvis. Notice where you feel more stretch in the back body and where you're taking the tension away. And then find the middle way. Find the neutral spot. So there will be a tiny bit of lordotic curve left. The back won't be flat on the ground, but it also won't be like really, really hollow. So you'll find that sweet spot. And then take the outside of your right ankle and place it above the left knee. This is called a figure 4 shape. And often the impulse here is to take the right hand and push that right leg away. And today I'm challenging you instead to use your core power, your belly power, to press the knee away from the body and to fire up your legs. And just notice the ease it brings into the stability that you're trying to cultivate in the core. Your belly is working here, it's fired up, it's stable, and yet it can stay soft enough that the breath can still travel in to expand you and travel out to bring a sense of release, of letting go. If this feels like it's not quite enough for you right now, you could always lift your pelvis up and feel what this feels like in a lifted position. A little bit more core power here, but there's no requirement. One more round of breath. If you're lifted, with your next exhalation, lower down, setting the bum down, keeping the lordotic curve in the lumbar. Bring the right foot to the mat and shake it out. Just shake your legs, wiggle, release any holding or gripping as you become ready to switch sides. Your decision is either to extend or to flex the right leg, your choice. It could be flat on the ground or it could be bent. And then you draw the left knee in, catching the back of the thigh with your hands or with your strap. Working here, right, with truthfulness, with satya, as well as peacefulness, knowing that props are the sign of an advanced yogi, right? And then create that isometric tension between the hands and the thighs by pulling the thigh toward the body at the same time that you're, with your hands, at the same time that you're pressing it away through the power of your thigh muscles. If you would like, you could straighten the left knee. If that's not in the cards today, that's totally okay. And then play with your left ankle, whether your knee is bent or straight. Starting perhaps with circles in one direction, and then circles in the other direction. Then maybe as a little brain challenge, making figure eights with your foot. And then dorsiflexing the ankle, pulling the toes toward the hips, pressing the heel toward the sky to really become attuned to how this reverberates through the back of the body, especially the back of the leg, maybe from the low back all the way to the heel. If this is more than you would like to do right now, you can always point the toes and release some of that tension. And perhaps instead bring your open-hearted awareness to the front of the foot. And then invite that movement of the pelvis. You can either keep holding on to the back of the thigh, or you can just stabilize your leg with your core muscles as you roll the pelvis forward and back, maybe noticing if you need to bend the right knee to do this. As you exhale, pressing the lumbar spine to the ground, and as you inhale, letting the pelvis roll forward, really beginning to feel this capacity of your pelvic girdle to roll itself around the heads of your femurs when you've stabilized the femurs in space. Working with patience here as you look inward into your experience, energetically and physically, with an open heart. We're creating some asymmetry in our legs here, and yet we are still creating complete integration in the pelvis. And if you've had enough fun with your pivoting pelvis, then find neutral, slight lordotic curve as you then place the outer ankle of the left foot just above the right knee and press the left knee away from your body. Resisting the urge to use the hand to do that and using instead the power of your core. And this is the core in the larger sense, right? Of not just the abdominal muscles, but all the connective tissue around them, all the small back muscles, the pelvic floor might draw in and up. As you find your strength here, this inner fortitude, this resilience that resides within you. As you stay fully collected in the present moment. If you'd like to experiment a bit more, you could lift the pelvis up, 1 unit rising up on the strength of the core. And if you did rise up, then lower down, bum arriving first as you exhale. Release the left foot to the ground, bend the right knee if it was still extended, and shake it out in whatever way feels good. And then stretch yourself long again, human stretching wrap. Yet again, feet walking away from the hips, hands walking away from the shoulders. As you become stretchy, stay attuned to the natural curves of your spine, even here. And then bring your arms down, bend your knees, hold the backs of your thighs, and come into a gentle rocking back and forth. This could be a very small movement. This movement requires that you actually bring rounding into the back. So we're letting go of the natural curves for a moment, and we're just making ourselves into a little ball, massaging our spine. If this feels safe, and don't come onto the neck, by the way, you can make the arc a little bit bigger. You can have fun with this. This is my rock and roll Kriya. And it's very energizing and very sweet. And if at some point you go far enough forward that you land on your feet, do that a couple of times. And then the third time, stay on your feet. And if you can't rock and roll to your feet, you can use your hands and bring yourself forward. No harm in that whatsoever. And then grab your blocks and have them handy at the top of your mat. And step the right foot inside the right block and the left foot to the back of the mat. So rock and roll Kriya is one of my favorites. I think it's just really a lovely way of balancing energy and inviting some joy into the practice. All right, so find your way into this lunge, staying very attuned to this pelvic girdle that we've been working with already, drawing the forward femur back and the back femur forward to keep that stability in the pelvis, moving as an integrated unit. Your hands can stay on the blocks, but don't dump your weight into them. You could even see for a moment if they can lift up, if you actually need them, or if your power is holding you up. And so the hands are really more there for balance than for steadiness. And feel your way into this lunge. From here, I invite you with an inhalation to straighten the forward leg. And then with an exhalation to come back to your lunge. And to do this a few times. This is just a little Kriya that flows between a lunge and a pyramid pose. Your torso doesn't move a whole lot. Your pelvis moves forward and back just by virtue of that forward knee flexing and extending. Let yourself do this nice and slow with your breath. Perhaps feeling that sense of expansiveness as you inhale. And the sense of releasing as you exhale. While you're staying very open-hearted in the upper chest, you could even check on that by bringing your fingers to your manubrium and giving yourself a little prompt to rise up through the heart. That's beautiful. I just saw several of those beautiful movements outward on the screen. That was really lovely. The next time you pivot back into pyramid pose, bring your hips to the right and then to the left. The back foot may have to pivot a little bit. And you might notice that now you're not just stretching the very back of your straight forward leg, but you're also stretching the sides. The adductors, when you move one way, maybe the IT band as you move the other way. So this is an opening for the back of the leg, all the way around the backside and the inner and outer leg. And so just luxuriate in this opening. Moving open-heartedly and introspectively, really feeling this from the inside out. And the next time you inhale, come to center and breathe yourself back into a lunge. From here, release the back knee to the ground and settle your seat onto your heel for a moment. The forward foot, the toes will rise up off the ground. You can bring your blocks with you. And we'll take a few hamstring slides here. So as you inhale, you'll come back and forward. And as you exhale, you'll slide back. How beautiful. moving with your own breath, and maybe luxuriating in the sweetness that comes from opening the back body at the same time that your heart is open. The next time you come back to your lunge, stay there, tuck the back toes under, bring that knee off the ground if you'd like, or you could stay with the knee lowered onto the ground. I'm gonna switch around so that that I will open up to see you. Bring your weight now into the left hand on the block, unweight the right hand. And then from here, press the left hand into the block and let that pivot your heart open. You can start in a lunge, but if you'd like to explore, you can then extend the forward knee and come to a revolved pyramid. If you'd rather stay in a revolved lunge with the back knee down, that's totally great. And invite this twist into the thoracic part of your spine, and then make a conscious choice about where you want to bring your head. Facing forward, looking at your upper hand, or maybe looking at the hand on your block. Just notice what your cervical spine would like in this moment. With your next out breath, bring the right hand back to your block. Take a moment to breathe here, and then make a decision about how you would like to switch sides. I'll run you through the options before you do it. You could step the back foot forward, come to a forward fold, step the right foot back. You could step the right foot back to a plank and then step the left foot forward, or you can press your hands into the block and jump. However you want to do it, exactly, just switch sides, perfect. And assemble yourself in the lunge here. So enjoy the integration of your pelvis by drawing the forward femur back and the back femur forward. Check on your open-heartedness, maybe releasing the hands away from the block to feel your stability for a moment. And then bringing the fingertips to the blocks just so that you have balance as you move now into your flow between pyramid and lunge with your breath. Inhaling back, exhaling forward, or if the breath rhythm is better for you, the opposite way, by all means do it that way. Just find a rhythm, combining breath and movement. Bringing your open-hearted awareness into your spine, embracing the natural curves. Sensing them even in this bit of a flow. That's bringing a bit of heat to your body. It's warming your muscles. And know that you can always choose to rest for a moment in child's pose if it's too much heat. And then the next time you are back in your lunge, go ahead and drop the right knee to the ground. Grab your blocks so you can bring them with you to just the right spot. As you slide your seat to your right heel for a few hamstring slides. Inhaling yourself forward and exhaling back. You could even, if it felt okay, close your eyes here. Bringing your attention inwards, sensing this flow from the inside out. As you get to know your body in this moment, And the next time you come forward, stay there. Yogi's choice, you can lift the back knee or you can leave it lowered. As you bring your weight now into your right hand, and then with an inhalation, I invite you to pivot your heart open as you lift that left arm up and overhead. The back knee can be bent and on the ground, or it could be lifted, and the forward knee can start in a lunge and then can extend into a pyramid. Your head has options. Your gaze can be straight forward. It could be up to the lifted hand, or it could be down to the hand that's bearing your weight. Notice with an open heart what is most auspicious for you in this moment. Not just moving with habit, but really making a choice. With your next exhalation, bring your hand down to the block. I'm going to switch sides, you don't need to. And then move your blocks off to the side so that they're still handy as you pivot yourself to the side so that now your feet are parallel to the small edges of your mat. And this is where you might still want to have a block or two handy. As you bring yourself into this very wide-legged forward fold, if you need your hands on the ground, you can keep them there. If you have the stability to bring your hands to your thighs, bring them high up on your thighs and roll your femurs in, stretching your sits bones up to the sky. At the same time that you're drawing your little toes out to the very edge of the mat isometrically to really fire up your peroneal muscles, the muscles on the outside of your shins, at the same time that you're internally rotating the thighs to sort of put, for a moment, to relieve the tension out of the external hip rotators. And once you feel like, oh yeah, I have that alignment in my legs, then maybe the hands drop back to the ground and you invite yourself to dive forward as far as feels appropriate for you in this moment. There's like no rule about how far you have to come into this fold. At some point, you might realize that going deeper will take the natural curves out of your spine. And in that moment, make a discerning choice about whether that is something that is okay for your back. If you have a healthy back, that might feel really nice to just release down and curl a bit. If your back's not that happy, you might be better off in a wide-legged half lift. Hands on a block, beautiful curves in the spine. As you're in this half inversion forward fold. Invite your inhalation to expand you, to open your heart. Invite your exhalation to release, to let go. If this is too long of a hold, you can always come to a child's pose, or you can bring the legs a bit closer together. You could have a block under the head and rest your head for a little support. And then lift yourself back up if you were curled down, and bring your left hand under your nose. You might want a block under that hand to bring the floor a little bit closer, but it's not required. It's really up to you. I'll show it with a block just so you can see what that looks like. And from here, take the right arm, bring it parallel to the ground. So it lifts up out to the side, just parallel to the ground. From here, bring your arm bone into the shoulder socket, the right one. And now often our habit is to come into a twist here by throwing the right arm up. don't. Instead, I encourage you to just maintain that stability of having the right arm grounded in the glenoid fossa as you press into the left hand to let the left armed power roll you open as you push the ground away and find your twist here, high in the spine, letting perhaps the left knee bend a tiny bit so that the pelvis can move as one unit very naturally into this wide-legged, forward-folded twist. One more round of breath here. And then as you exhale, release the right hand down. Let everything normalize before you even think about the second side. Sense into your pelvis. Can you neutralize here? Do you need to wiggle or move a little bit to create that sense of neutral spine, natural spine, neutral pelvis? Do you maybe need to readjust your feet for a moment? We're doing long holds today, so I'm trusting that you have a practice of letting yourself rest when you need to. And then we'll bring the right hand under the nose, either on the ground or on a block or two blocks. Left arm comes out to the side, parallel to the ground. Draw that left humerus into the glenoid, into the shoulder socket, stable. And then press the right hand into the block, pressing the floor away from you to let that open your heart into this very forward-folded twist. Feel your own strength here. Let your open heart meet your inner awareness. Love and joy. And you can pull out for outward like this, like a starfish. And inward. Moving your body from the inside out. Feel your own vitality. Even if it's a trembling vitality at this point. And then with an exhale, release yourself down. And come back into just any kind of forward fold here for a moment. You could have a couple of blocks under you and rest your elbows and then bring the forehead to your hands like this. Resting the head, keeping natural curves in the spine. Coming into a very restful, wide-legged forward fold. Or perhaps your hands are on the ground and your head reaches the blocks, grounding the crown of the head and trusting your head to the earth. Maybe you don't even need the blocks. Maybe you have a blanket. Noticing if rounding the spine is auspicious for your back here. And if not, perhaps coming to a half lift. Taking another breath, releasing, relaxing within this effort. And then press the hands into the earth underneath your shoulders and come to a half lift if you're not already there. And feel the natural curves of your spine coming back to you. From here, you might want your blocks, you might not. You'll have to sort of see what feels good. We're going to bring our bum over to the left foot as the right toes point up to the ceiling. So the left bum cheek will be on the left heel. The right foot will point up to the ceiling. Yeah, a little bit complicated. The first few of these will maybe be a little bit rough, and then you might actually have fun with it. We're going to pivot side to side. So now, if you want, you can use your block. You can press the hands into it. You bring yourself back to your wide-legged forward fold, maybe your second block, comes to the other side. Now the right side of your bum releases onto the right heel as the left foot pivots up, toes pointing to the sky. And from here, move with your breath. Inhaling, fold, exhaling, coming down at your own speed with your own breath, or you can linger on one side. And slowly switch to the other side. Moving from the inside out, moving with an open heart here. Maybe you don't want your blocks. Maybe you want your blocks on a higher setting. Just see how this little flow here is unfolding for you. Feeling into the backs of your legs. They should be feeling increasingly pliable. There's a lot of heat, there's a lot of blood flow, and we've really encouraged everything in your body and in your energy and in your mind to open up. And by now you're probably thinking, Chris, how many more of these bloody things will we do? The next time you come to the right side, that can be your last time. Rest there for a moment. And then bring yourself back to center into your wide-legged squat. Into your wide-legged forward fold. And then from there, come into a squat. Turn your toes out any degree. Walk the feet in just a little bit. And just bring the hands behind the knees, the elbows under, the hands behind the feet, the elbows under the knees. So that you're almost holding yourself here. And if you'd like, you could pivot side to side for a moment. Just finding maybe a playful way of being in this somewhat strange position. Kind of like a little crab or something. You know, it's almost like walking sideways like crabs do. And then when you feel ready, you can release your bum to the earth in whatever way works for you. You can help yourself down with your arms and find your wide-legged forward fold from here. This is where your really, really long strap might come in handy. If you have a really long strap, you can wrap it around the toe mounds of your feet and then around your hands. And you can pull on the strap with your hands at the same time that you're pressing it away with your feet. If you don't have a strap that's long enough, then bring your hands to wherever they can rest on your legs and see if you can find that motion of pressing the feet away from you without having the resistance of the strap. From here, sense into your spine and notice if you have a natural curve. If you're unsure, let go of the strap for a moment. Take your right hand, bring it to your right thigh. Roll the right thigh in the same way that we did in our standing forward fold. Then bring your hands to the left. Roll that left femur into internal rotation and just feel how this brings the sits bones back so that the tops of the femurs are now resting. This is, you're sitting on the tops of the femurs. This is so stable and amazing. And then from here, you can stay here, holding your strap and maybe slowly moving the chest forward, but moving from the heart. So you're rolling the belly down. You're not curling down, but you're rolling the belly down as the heart stays open. If you're not sure how to do that, you can always have the hands under your heart and give some resistance. Maybe you're coming to the elbows. And so the goal is not to come anywhere here with the torso, but the goal is to maintain that natural lift through the spine, keeping the heart open as you're fully attuned to your inner experience of this forward fold. Coming as far as is auspicious for your body. And breathing. Feeling the expansiveness of the inhalation and releasing with the exhalation. If you want to, if your body allows, you could always use a block to bring it under your elbows, or your elbows could be on the ground. And you could bring the sort of soft part of your palm just to the inside of your eyebrows and lift your head for a moment. You could even let go of that resistance in the toes as you take a moment to relax into this fold. Sense inward and notice if a little rounding in the spine here is okay for your low back. If it is, maybe you come a little bit lower as you round down. If it's not, stay lifted, maintaining the natural curves of your spine. Moving with an open heart and with awareness. Checking in, not out. Tuning in, not tuning out. Being present with the peace of this shape as your body perhaps settles ever more deeply into it, or even just settling into it energetically, if not physically. Take one more full round of breath. With your next inhalation, ground your palms, find your natural spine, and then lift yourself up. From here, I invite you to bring your left elbow to the inside of your left thigh. It might be really nice to bring a block there and to rest that forearm on the block. As you take your right arm and bring it to your sacrum, rolling your heart open any amount. Adding a gentle twist here to your wide-legged seat. If you have a sense that your body wants more, you could go ahead and lift that right arm up and overhead, but don't disturb the peace of the shape by picking a variation that disrupts your energy. And so move with discernment here. Letting your choices be made by your inner experience, your open-hearted awareness, rather than some outer striving. With an inhalation, pressing the left part of your arm that's reaching the floor up. Come upright again. Patiently find your wide-legged seat. Adjust yourself. Let that twist sort of work its way out of your body. And when you feel ready, then you can do this on the other side. Different side, different story. So no expectations about where you will travel here as you rest your elbow either on the block at the inside of your right thigh or on the ground. The block could be really high. You could have two blocks on top of each other. So there's like nothing magical about how low or how high that elbow is. And then the left hand reaches around to your sacrum as you open your chest to the left, any amount. Again, there's no goal other than to embrace this rotation high in your spine while you're attending to the energy that's present in your legs as you press through your heel and as you allow your pelvis to move as one unit. Maybe feeling the right side of the pelvis move forward as you move naturally. And then if you sense from the inside out that your arm would like to travel up and over, you can release it. You breathe through it. And you feel it in your head. Bringing your breathing into continuous relaxation. It's incredible the way it's in the body in a minute.
Chris, when you talk into your microphone like that, it's muffled when your mouth is a teeny bit closed, just FYI.
Thank you. And then when you feel ready to come up, you can press into the right arm wherever it's most auspicious for you to help lift you up. So you come back into your wide-legged seat. Take a moment to settle in. Can you hear me okay? Thank you. And take a breath here. And then from here, use your hands to bring your knees into a bend and to gently slide your feet closer toward your bum and turn yourself on your mat so that you can come into a closed forward fold now. This is more demanding for your body. And so really check in with yourself to see if you need a bit of a lift now under your pelvis. A wedge might be nice, a blanket might be nice. The way you can tell if you need a lift is by bringing your hands to your low back to see if your lordotic curve is intact. And if it takes a lot of straining or bracing to bring a curve into the low back, then give yourself the pleasure of a wedge or a blanket. And then grab a strap, catch your toes in the same way that we did with the wide-legged forward fold, only now if you have a short strap, it'll be plenty long because your feet are not so far apart. And then pull back on the strap with your hands at the same time that you're pressing the toes away and pressing through the heels. And just notice how this opens your heart almost naturally. It invites the natural curves into your spine. It might even invite you to ground through the heads of the femurs. If you're not feeling it, you might need to take your hands, reach them to your right thigh, roll that femur in, and then do the same thing for the left femur to inwardly rotate the thighs if you didn't do that already, and then try again. Finding perhaps this sense of grounding in this very beautiful Dandasana shape, which is both a seat and a forward fold. And then from here, you can keep holding the strap or you can let it go, yogi's choice. And you can decide how far forward you would like to roll. You might want to have some props ready. So you might have a zafu or a block or a bolster or a blanket on your legs that could give some support to your belly if you plan to roll forward. If you don't plan to roll forward, if you're holding with the strap, you don't need any additional props. If you would like to roll forward, then I invite you to breathe out fully. And then on an empty belly, roll from the belly toward your legs. This keeps the natural curve in the spine a little bit longer. You could hold on to the strap or you could hold onto your legs or your feet with your hands. As you pulse down, lifting up, finding expansion with your inhalation, and then on the exhalation and on an empty belly, releasing forward, perhaps just a little bit more. Pulsing up, inhaling to expand, to find that natural curve, that rising up of the spine, exhaling, releasing. And if you come to a point where you feel like you'd like to roll and you have a healthy back that accommodates this, you could roll yourself down, letting the spine curl a little bit as you release. The head
toward your legs, maybe onto your prop. I forgot to grab one. So I'm doing it without, but don't take that as a sign that that's how it should be. But instead, find the comfort of your prop here under your belly, which also gives support. It helps carry the weight of your torso. And so this is a very beautiful way of supporting your spine. And so do avail yourself of the beauty of a blanket or a zafu or a block here. And then rest for 2 to 3 breaths. The next time you inhale, gently bring your face forward, look at your own feet. Slide the hands back so that they're pretty close to being under your shoulders, and press up just enough, leading with your open heart so that you find your natural curves. And once you feel reconnected to your natural curves, press through the heels of the feet in case you lost that engagement, and then rise all the way up, back to Dandasana. Bring your hands to your right thigh and use your hands to bend your right knee and drag your right foot in. Keep a little bit of a distance between the inside of the right foot and the inside of the left thigh. I'm going to turn so that you can see me from the front, but you don't need to turn around. And give your leg a bit of a hug here. From here, hold your knee. You could hold it with both of your hands or with one hand. As you then bring the bottom of the right foot to the inside of the left thigh. You might need a blanket or a block under that right leg. If the knee hovers, you really do want to give it some support that will stabilize the knee. Otherwise, the knee might torque, because if your hip doesn't want to open all the way, the tension has to go somewhere and it'll go into the knee. But if you support it, the knee stays integrated here. And so be mindful of what your body needs here and give it the right height of support. Now from here, find your natural curves, and then with an inhalation, lift your arms up. Let this movement lift the rib cage off your hips. You could even take your hands, bring them to the low rib cage, and with an inhalation, lift the rib cage away from the hips, and the hips out of the hip, off of the heads of the femur. And feel that openness, that open-heartedness. As you turn yourself ever so slightly, it's not a huge twist, you're going to use the belly to the right into a little bit of a twist here. Then with an inhalation, lift the arms up and overhead, neutralize, come to center. And then exhale, turn to the other side. Tiny bit of a twist to the left now. Bring the right hand to the outside of the left leg. And then in the same way that we descended in our closed leg forward fold, let yourself roll down over the left leg. Any amount, you don't have to go far. If you have a strap, you can hold on to the strap to come into Janu Shirshasana, head of knee pose. Landing wherever you want to land, given the nature of your spine, the nature of your energy, the nature of your mind, your emotions. If you do want to move down further, do so discerningly, checking in with your low spine. And if all is well, you might let yourself round in the low spine as you fold over your left leg. You could have a prop here. You could have a zafu, a blanket, a block.
You could also be holding your strap to give yourself some resistance here as you take a moment to rest. Find a full breath. And then at the end of your next exhalation, with your inhalation, perhaps bring the hands to the ground, lift the face forward, press the hands into the ground to find the natural curves of your spine as you help yourself back up. Use your right hand to bring in the right knee, stretch it, stretch out the right leg, and maybe shake things out. Neutralize your pelvis. Be patient. And then find your other side. So you might need to reassemble. I need to internally rotate my right leg and my left leg. I need to resettle myself on my blanket to really feel ready here. You might want to press through the heels to feel the engagement of your quads, maybe, sort of feeling the sturdiness of your kneecaps here as you then bring both hands to the left thigh to use that hand to bring the foot in close. Having a gap between the inside of the left foot and the inside of the right thigh. And then hold onto your knee, have your block handy in case you need it on this side. And then when you feel ready, with integrity in the knee, with integrity in the spine, turn the right knee out, plant the bottom of the left knee out, ground the bottom of the left foot to the inside of the right thigh. Notice what you might need in terms of support under the right knee as you find length here by inhaling and expanding the arms upward, letting yourself sort of really find joy in your natural spine, and then maybe using the hands to lift the rib cage away from the pelvis to bring freedom into the acetabulum, almost like lifting the pelvis off of the heads of the femur. This is more figurative than literal. And then inhale the arms back up if you had lowered them for a brief turn to the left, based entirely on your core strength. You're not using your arms to torque yourself to the left. You're just using your core to open yourself up, of course, allowing the entirety of the pelvis to move with you. And then inhale yourself tall, readjust your pelvis as needed. Press through the right heel and exhale to the right. Now on this side, if you'd like to experiment, you could bring a little bit of extra passive stretch into this twist. As long as this feels safe, there's no tweaking or twinging in the SI joints. And then from this slightly rotated position, begin to slide the left hand down the outside of the right leg. Have your prop handy in case you want something on your right thigh, like a blanket or a block or a zafu, as you now with discernment decide where you want to land in your Janu Shirshasana here. Make a very auspicious choice, using your open-hearted awareness of your inner experience to decide how to arrange yourself physically and energetically as you then rest for 2 to 3 breaths. Gently release your hands to the earth.
Bring some power into the arms so that you can lift and open your heart. Find the natural curves of your spine and lift yourself up. You might use your left hand to bring up the left knee and then jiggle out the legs. Maybe you'd like to do a reverse tabletop here to press the hips up toward the sky as you jiggle and move. Maybe you make some circles with your hips. Get creative. And then have your block handy by your side, have your blanket handy by your side. Move any unnecessary props off your mat. Scoot yourself forward and roll yourself onto your back. From here, I invite you into a restorative bridge pose. I would recommend that you use the lowest setting of your block. We've kept our heart pretty open, and yet still we didn't really do much back bending. And so we really just want to open our hip flexors a bit. So I invite you to bring the feet in relatively close to your sits bones so that your fingertips maybe can just find the backs of the heels. Walk your shoulder blades underneath you, bringing stability into the shoulder girdle. And you might notice that this also brings your natural curve back in your lordotic, in your lumbar spine. And then press into your feet and lift the hips. Once the hips are lifted, press into your arm bones, walk the shoulder blades underneath you a little bit more, and then isometrically drag your heels toward your bum and feel your hamstrings firing at the same time that your quads are opening up, your hip flexors are opening up. You can stay here without support, or you can take your block and slide it under your sacrum. And then you can release the sacrum onto the block. If you're not comfortable on the block, there's a pretty good chance that you're not really on the sweet spot of the sacrum. Try sliding it either higher or lower, usually lower, but just experiment with this. And then explore what it means for your body to extend both knees and to come into a very long, lifted human stretching rack yet again. Bringing the arms up and overhead. Maybe pressing through the heels, or maybe just relaxing the legs and the arms. If this is too much stretch, you can bend the knees and stay in bridge pose. Enjoy this opening of the front body and this releasing of the back body. Receiving the expansiveness of the breath into the front body. And releasing and letting go through the back body. At any point that this does not feel enjoyable to you anymore, you can remove the block. And then I invite you to bend the knees if the legs were stretched, to lift the hips so you can slide out the block and just drag the heels isometrically toward the bum again. And then reach the bum for the ground, keeping a bit of a lordotic curve in the low back.
until the buttocks reach the ground. And then from here, I invite you to draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a hug, an acknowledgement for all of the work that you've done today, the looking inward with an open heart. And then invite any kind of movement that feels auspicious to you as a final release of the energy that you generated through this practice. Releasing any little leftover tensions in your body, nourishing your vitality, settling your mind, your emotions, maybe happy babies, maybe twists, maybe just very gentle knee circles. Just notice what feels right for you as you gently begin to transition yourself toward your final resting shape, your Shavasana. Finding a very auspicious placement for your body. Giving yourself the joy of props as needed. And then invite your body to release itself into the earth. Let go. Release any holding or gripping. Simply trusting that whatever needs to continue to happen in the body will happen naturally. That your body is supported, your body is nourished. As you surrender your physical being into this moment. And then gently invite your breath to do the same, to entrust itself to the flow of prana, to trust that you will be breathed in exactly the way you need in this moment. As you surrender the breath to the flow of life force that moves through all of us. And then invite your mind and your emotions to release as well, knowing that thoughts may come and go, and yet that there's no need to either try to chase them away or to attach to them. Simply surrendering your mind, your emotions to your greater inner wisdom. From this place of letting go, I invite you into a few minutes of silence. Gently begin to invite your senses outward, taking in the sounds around you, feeling perhaps the air on your skin, the earth beneath you. You might even blink the eyes open for a moment to connect yourself visually to your environment. If it feels intuitive, perhaps you move your body in some small or large way, inviting the movement to happen from the inside out. And as your body awakens, connect yourself back to your breath. Once again, becoming the observer of the natural flow of prana as it moves into and out of your body. Receiving the breath with gratitude. Collect your mind and your emotions into the present moment, inviting them into this experience right here, right now. And when you feel you've collected yourself into the present in all of your layers, I invite you to begin your own journey to a seat where we will meet to close our practice together. I invite you to find an auspicious placement for your hands as you bow your head to your open heart. Taking a moment to check in with your body with gratitude. Gratitude for how it is settling into this moment. Gratitude for how it moves you through the world. Gratitude with how it supports your life. And check in with your breath. Finding gratitude for the vitality, for the energy, the presence that it brings to every moment of your life. Checking in with your capacity to think, to feel, to ponder, to consider your own roles, to feel your purpose in relationship, to sense into your connection to Sangha. Opening your heart in gratitude to your mind layer, your wisdom. And then remind yourself that underneath all of this is your true self, your joyful being, that seed that holds unlimited potential. Thank you so much for practicing. It's a joy and an honor.